Hey, welcome to Nola Vibes. I'm Te-Erika and we're vibing in New Orleans, baby. Yes, we are. OMG, today I'm going to give you all of my best tips for how to find housing in New Orleans when you live out of town. So many people visit the city, decided they want to move here, and they don't know how to get started. And I'm going to tell you how I did this myself. First things first, you need to join the Moving to New Orleans Facebook support group. That's at facebook.com/groups/moving to New Orleans. Join this group. You will have a much easier time than I did because when I moved here, I did not have this group because I hadn't created it yet. There are more than 4,000 people in the group right now. We've all moved here, or we all trying to move here, and everybody's going to share tips and tricks for the city and how to navigate things once you get here. Even before here, you can find answers to all of your questions. And if you visit nolavibes.com, you can subscribe and get a free PDF resource that I created with all the information about the city that I can think of at the time. It's going to tell you how to turn on your utilities. It's going to tell you descriptions of the neighborhoods, what do I think of them, and how it was relating to the people here. So I did all that so you don't have to go through the drama that I went through when I moved here unsupported and alone. But since moving here, I've managed to create a good life for myself. But today we're going to focus only on how I secured housing when I was moving to New Orleans by myself, when I was moving to New Orleans alone. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I did when I first stayed in New Orleans, I booked an Airbnb. And I remember renting one room in the Airbnb, and there was another person. There were two other rooms that were rented out to other random strangers. I didn't mind doing this at all. I felt safe. I felt secure. I stayed in the Hoffman's Triangle that first time I visited here, and I liked that neighborhood. It was uptown, and it was walkable. You could walk to a lot of different stores and things like that. Lots of the traditional houses there. It was pretty cool. I rented a room very cheaply. When I knew I wanted to come back, I was out of town, and I knew I was wanted to try to come back to move to New Orleans. I then didn't know exactly how to stay without using up all my money so quickly. So I turned to Craigslist, and in Craigslist, I found a woman who was willing to rent her room for $500 for the month. Just a room in her house. Like, she had a big old house in the 7th Ward, and she was renting her room in the house, and it was a private room with a private bathroom. It was on a popular street called Broad Street, so it was very centrally located, very good area. And I contacted her, and she agreed to rent a room with me for $500 for the month. Like, this was back in 2019. So I went there. I stayed with her for only 1 week because the situation didn't turn out to be good. The room was great, even though it had mice in it, but the room was great. The location was great, but it turns out that she wanted to have a companion. She was looking for somebody to come spend time with her while she's here. I guess her husband or boyfriend was out of town working, so she was renting the room out so she can have company. And that's not my personality. I'm not going to be people's companions, and I'm not for rent. Anyway, so I ended up leaving that situation and going back out of town again. And I knew I wanted to come back to New Orleans, and I was going to make it happen no matter what. But before I left to leave out, after that week I spent at her house, I was literally combing the streets, asking random people on the streets, how do I find housing here? I had seen for rent signs and things like that, but I was like, it got to be a way to find more local housing with local people with local prices, not just the stuff that they put online trying to, price gouge. And I ran into one woman, and she said Tulane Classifieds, and she just walked off. That tip changed my complete life. Tulane Classifieds is a Facebook group. There are two of them, join both, but one of them is the larger group, and it's a group that's connected to one of the colleges here in the city. But it's not just all college students. It's a lot of college students, but it's more local people selling things from their houses, and offering rooms for rent or offering subleases for their apartment. Is a great way to, get to know the city and meet some more local people. If you're coming during the holidays, it's an easier chance for you to find a temporary room rental because this is a college town. So there are so many different colleges here, Loyola, Tulane, Xavier, and these college students go home for the college break or the summer break. So you can actually go inside Tulane Classifieds and create an ad asking if anyone would be willing to rent their private rooms and their apartments to you during the break. they'll rent it to you for much cheaper, all utilities included, probably like $300 or $100 a week. I found so many people willing to do that. I never took anyone up on their offer because I needed a longer term stay, like a month or more. But if you're willing to stay with somebody for 2 weeks in somebody's house with all their stuff and it's not exactly so clean, then you can definitely take advantage of that type of option. But you'll have to post it yourself instead of responding to them. You'll have to be proactive and ask, would you be willing to allow me to live in your space while you're away for the holiday break or for the summer break? That's a great idea. So I went to Tulane Classifieds. I was looking through all the ads. This is after I left that second time I came back, and I didn't find anybody that, you know, I could rent a room for that or anything like that. So I decided, instead of answering people's ads, I decided to post one of my own. I think it's better to post your own ad versus responding to people's ads, especially if you're out of town, because if you're out of town, people are going to say, okay, well, yeah, I have the room, come see it tomorrow. Well, you can't come see it tomorrow because you're out of town. So if you post an ad explaining the whole situation, so I said, look, I want to move to New Orleans. I don't know anybody there. I'm looking for a room to rent, apartment to rent for a month. Does anybody have, my budget is this. Does anybody have an idea of where I can go? A week went by, I think, and nobody responded, and here I am still traveling the country. I had made it all the way to New York, and I was just going from city to city, staying as long as I wanted to stay. And I had made it to New York, and I was about to, move forward and go to Boston. But before I even got to book my trip to Boston, I received a message from somebody who saw my ad on Tulane Classifieds, and he said that he had been out of the town for the summer. His house was completely empty. I could have the entire house for my budget of what I said, and he just wanted to just make some money back he was still paying the bills here, and he just wanted to make some money back. And he allowed me to stay in his house. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, I'm sure. I'm like, you're not going to do this to me. Like, if I come all the way down there from New York to New Orleans and you don't let me in your house, he's like, I'm not going to do that to you. I promise. He didn't ask for any money up front. He didn't ask for anything. We talked on the phone, and I said, okay, I booked my bus ride from New York to New Orleans. And when I got here, I went to his house, and he had a neighbor meet me, and she let me in and gave me the key, and I sent him the money, and I had a beautiful 3-bedroom home for an entire month. And of course, after that, I had to go, because my time there was up. So I left again, but I knew I wanted to come back to New Orleans. I think I ended up going to Chicago for a little bit. I was traveling around. And then I ended up back in Florida, but I'm like, you know what? I got to get back to New Orleans. Something was telling me, come to New Orleans. You got to get there. This city was the only city out of all the travels that I've done around the country. This is the only city that I knew I wanted to be in for some reason. Not knowing a single soul here, not having any connection with the city. I just felt like I needed to be here. So while I was in Fort Lauderdale, I was checking Airbnb for low rates, for the lowest rate. No matter what the place looked like, it didn't matter to me. As long as I could lock the door, I was trying to find the lowest rate, and I found someone renting a room in their apartment for a very cheap rate. So I was like, I got it. I locked it in really quickly. And 2 days later, 2 days before I was supposed to leave, he messaged me saying he's canceling his reservation. He doesn't want to do it anymore. I was so mad, but it ended up being for my benefit, because if they cancel on you for an Airbnb and you've already booked your trip, then they'll pay for your next Airbnb, and whatever the difference in price is, they'll pay it. So I ended up getting a even nicer Airbnb than what I would have stayed in with him, and they paid the difference, which was like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because he was having his prices really cheap. So when I finally made it back to New Orleans again, after taking another bus ride from Fort Lauderdale to New Orleans, yes, I'm on Greyhound heavy. I got here. I was so excited. I got to my Airbnb. I stayed there for 1 week, and then I transferred to another Airbnb. I stayed there for 1 week, and while I was staying there, I was looking around the city, just talking to people, stopping them on the street, and I ended up finding on Tulane Classifieds. Once again, I was looking there again, and I found this guy who said he wanted to rent a room in his house, a room in his house, and it was a super cheap price. And I was like, okay, I can do that for 2 months. I started messaging him. We did a video call where I got to see the room. But while I was looking in that room, and he sent me pictures afterwards, I'm like, this looks like the laundry room. It was literally the laundry room. He was renting out the laundry room in his apartment, and he already had one other roommate who slept in the living room. He slept in the one closed room, and the back room in his house was a laundry room, but it was big enough to fit like a twin size bed, a full size bed. And I was like, okay, so if I'm gonna rent out the laundry room, y'all not gonna be doing laundry back here. Like, I can't, have y'all running in and out the room, because I know me, I know I'm messy, and I'm gonna leave stuff out, and I don't want people coming in and out of my mess. And he said, okay, if you rent this room, then we won't use the laundry room there while you're here. We'll go down the street to the laundromat, or I'll use my parents who live down the street. This is what he agreed to in writing. We put it in a lease and everything. Signed the lease. I moved in. I got my little mattress on the floor. It was, and I was excited, to finally be here. And now I got 2 months to figure out what my next move is going to be able to stay in the city. That didn't go well because he decided he wanted to use the laundry room, and he would sneak into my room while I was going out to take walks and things like that. And it turned into this big old issue, but that's all here nor there. I stayed for the 2 months, and for that very cheap price. And at the end of the 2 months, just like the last week, I found another apartment on Craigslist, and this apartment was super huge. It was the type of house I have now, which is a shotgun house. It was 2 bedrooms, and it was super huge, and it was super affordable. It was in a neighborhood I didn't know well, and it was called the Ninth Ward. But I was like, I don't care, as long as the door can lock. That was my thing. As long as the door can lock, I can live there. I don't care what it looks like. So I contacted her. I told her I want the place. She said, you haven't even seen it. I said, I don't care. I can afford this, and the door can lock. We're good. So I ended up filling out the application for the place, got the place, got approved. A week later, I was in my own apartment here in New Orleans, which was awesome and great. The apartment was huge. It was nice. She had kept it up very nice. There were no bugs or anything like that. The neighborhood was not a neighborhood that I would want to live in again. Because of the neighbors that I had right next to me. They were they were criminals. And I got like some criminal attacks while I was there. It was kind of crazy. At that time. And I remember praying every day, I can't wait till I don't live here anymore and I don't have to see these neighbors again. That was a terrible time. But eventually, like a year later, it was time for me to go, so I had to try to find another place, and I was nervous because that place was super cheap, and I was like, I gotta find something that's super affordable because I don't want to have to be stressed about where I'm gonna live. And I didn't know what to do. I'm stressing out. I'm running around the city. I'm looking all over. I know the prices of everything, and I happened to my son actually suggested, why don't you drive around the neighborhood you want to live in? And because I had been all over New Orleans around at this point exploring the city, I knew that I wanted to live in a neighborhood called Gentilly, but I didn't think that I could because Gentilly had mostly houses, big houses. But I just drove through the neighborhood, trying to see if I could find a for rent sign, and I actually found one. And when I looked inside the house, it was very similar to where I had lived. I was just where I was living already. It was the same type of setup, a shotgun house. But this house was different. It was better because it had a private backyard, and it had a private driveway so that I can, park my car without worrying about, arguing with the neighbors or somebody, using my driveway. So I secured this house where I'm living right now. I still love it to this day. It was still the best house I've had since I've been in New Orleans. I haven't had any major issues. My neighbors here are good. I feel good. I feel happy. But I just wanted to share with you that you can move to New Orleans alone. You can make it here. I do feel unsafe a lot of the time while I'm here in New Orleans. So if you're worried about how safe you'll feel as safe as your experiences. So if you move here and nothing happens to you, you don't have any bad experiences with people trying to rob you, break into your car, anything like that, you'll feel good. But the minute something does happen to you, you'll start to feel unsafe. And because so many things have happened to me, my car got broken into, I had my tires slashed, like literally crazy stuff, with the aggressiveness of the people here. But that's just my personal experience. It could just be me. You might not have that experience at all. But if you're trying to move here alone, it can be done, because I did it. So I just want to encourage you and to share with you that just keep going. Make your dream come true. If there's something calling you to pull you to New Orleans, join the Moving to New Orleans Facebook group. we're going to be there to support you. We're going to be there to stand with you. If you need something, we'll tell you the best ways to go and get it. I've had all kind of experiences in this city. I've gone to get, I had to go to the emergency room, the urgent care. I go to the dentist. So I know where everything is and how to do almost everything. I've even had to go to court. I've even, dealt with the court systems here. So I've done a lot. It's been a lifetime, so far it seems here. But I don't regret it. I found like a job that I really, really, really love. And most of my days are super, super happy. And I've come to find peace here. And I hope you will too. If this is your dream, join the Moving to New Orleans Facebook group and keep going, because you can do it, especially now that you know that I did.